Whatever it is that you use as your excuse to offer your vibration sets the tone for your point of attraction. Haven't you noticed that the worse it gets for a while until you come to your senses? And the better it gets until you fall back into your old habits? In other words, haven't you noticed that you can get on a run where you're feeling really good and things just get better and better and better, and then some old person shows up in your life or something happens and you get refocused, or you watch CNN, or you go to the movie on global warming and you have a sort of resistance relapse? So we want you to feel the power of your life experience. And the reason that we are taking such a dynamic, dramatic approach to it is because you have had such publicity about something that is causing so many of you to think in a negative way about something that matters to you so intensely. And we've been saying to you for a while that this is the time of awakening. And what the time of awakening means is it's a time of greater contrast, which means it's a time of launching more rockets, which means it's a time of more answering, which means it's a time of more energy flowing, which means it's a time when, if you line up with the energy that is creating worlds and the energy that is a vibrational match to who you are, you thrive in enormous ways. And if you don't thrive in big ways. That's why the rich are richer and the poor are poorer and the well are weller and the sick are sicker. And the middle ground is not as obvious as it once was, because the energy that creates worlds is moving faster than it ever has before, which means it behooves you to find ways to move in the direction of the energy. You don't have to keep up with the energy that creates worlds, but you better be moving in the direction of the energy that creates worlds. Otherwise, it's really hard on you. It's like you're driving down the freeway and you collide with an automobile that's moving the same way that you are. It's not as devastating as if you collide with an automobile that's coming from the other direction. When you get moving in the direction of the energy, you have a much more comfortable ride than when you're bucking the current. When you move against the current that you have been asking for and summoning and has been coming for all of this time, it doesn't work out very well for you. And the first signal that you're doing that is the emotion, the negative emotion that you feel. So, the briefest way to explain it is that you are source energy. You come forth into a physical body. Life causes you to ask for more. That asking is then answered by source energy, because source energy gives its undivided attention to what you are asking for. And as law of attraction is responding to this culmination of all that you are, it creates a very powerful calling or source. Do you acknowledge that law of attraction is a factor in your life experience? Have you shown to yourself that when you hold something as your object of attention, sooner or later, and usually sooner, it shows up in your experience? Do you acknowledge that as you have been in this physical body, you have been thinking a lot of thoughts that now make up the basis of your point of attraction? Do you acknowledge that you have thought thoughts before that you're not thinking now, and since you're not thinking them now, it's not part of your basis of attraction? Do you understand that it's only the thought that is actively being thought that is your basis of attraction? Well, please understand that that is so. You didn't feel very confident about that. But we want you to know that thoughts that you thought before are not affecting you now unless you're still thinking them. And so people worry about unconscious thoughts or subconscious thoughts. And we want to say to you, if it's so subconscious or unconscious that you're not having any emotion around it, then it's not big enough that it has any pulling power. So you do acknowledge that your thoughts do create your reality. So now, here's another factor that we want you to consider relative to the law of attraction. And as you wrap your thoughts around this, it's going to serve you enormously well, because this piece of information is going to help you to understand, maybe for the first time, why your guidance system, your emotional guidance system, works in the way that it does. Did you enjoy our analogy of the electricity and the toaster a little bit? And do you acknowledge that you existed as source energy before you came forth into this physical body? And do you accept that non-physical part of you still remains in non-physical? And would you like to join us in acknowledging that that is an eternal being there? Now, you can call it God, you can call it source energy, you can call it all that is. The name that you give it doesn't matter very much, but it is an eternal consciousness that is expanding and is pure positive energy. So this powerful energy, do you acknowledge that law of attraction responds to that energy in the same way that it responds to what's going on here where you are? And do you acknowledge that that must have been around way longer than you've been around here? So this swirling energy of well-being that has gleaned its existence through the contrast and is always moving toward what is wanted, the most expanded, furthermost part in the universe, can you feel the huge well-being of this energy? And can you feel the comparison of the way law of attraction's response to it must be in relationship to law of attraction's response to you? So, now do you understand why the call of Source is what it is? Now do you understand why there is a current that is calling you toward well-being? Now do you understand that no matter how much you beat the drum of what you do not want, when you croak, you're going to close that gap? Now do you understand why we are so confident about the well-being of all that is? So, here is this huge energy of well-being that law of attraction is responding to. And from your point of view in your physical body, what that means is when you feel the call of Source, it feels compelling and it feels elating. In other words, the call of Source in its purest form, when you are close enough in vibrational proximity to it to really feel it, feels like joy, it feels like passion, it feels like eagerness, it feels like love, it feels like appreciation, it feels like well-being, it feels like yipping and yahooing all the way down the canyon, it feels like cartwheels, it feels like sunshine and rainbows and lollipops, it feels like all of the things that you've ever associated with well-being, it feels like liquid love, it feels like joy, it is rapturous, it is orgasmic, it ripples through your body, it is ecstasy. That's what Source energy is and feels like. So, this you that is you, do you get this sense that as you are born here and you have exposure to experience and you give birth to rockets of desires, that the larger part of you expands because of what you've lived and then stands there with law of attraction responding to it, calling you toward it. And when you move in the direction of that calling, you feel so good. That's that impulse, that's that inspiration, that's feeling of, oh, I want to do that. That's that life-giving, life-calling, me being who I am. That's me in my human form keeping up with who I have become. That's the way you intended to live life. When you feel negative emotion, whether you call it frustration or overwhelmment, or something stronger like anger or rage or hate, or something stronger like disappointment or fear or depression, when you feel those negative emotions, what it always means is you're not letting yourself be you. You're focused upon some aspect of contrast, and you've done it for way more than 17 seconds, so that you've got an activation within you that is not letting you go with the flow. And what happens is, the thing about not going with the flow is that the flow doesn't say, oh, they're not coming, let's wait. The flow keeps going because law of attraction is responding to the larger part of you. Jerry and Esther went whitewater rafting, and the man who was guiding their boat said, friends, this is not Disneyland, we cannot turn this river off. In other words, we want to say the same thing to you. This is not Disneyland. This river cannot be turned off. You cannot turn off the result of all of the desire that you've lived in all of this time. This is Source energy summoning you. You must let yourself be who you are, and if you don't let yourself be who you are, you don't feel good. And it's not about somebody else saying you should be something, you need to be something. It's about life having called it through you and you not going. And when you don't go, it doesn't feel good. And when you do go, it feels oh so good. And do you know, you don't even have to go and receive the full manifestation of it. You just have to no longer not go. We see you. You take your boats down to the river. You've got your paddles in them. You put the boat in the water. And almost without exception, human dear hearts that you are, you turn your boat upstream and begin paddling very hard. And we say, why not turn and go with the flow? And you say, oh, that just seems lazy. We say, well, you could use a different word like natural. No, I choose lazy. It seems lazy. I don't want to be lazy. I want to be virtuous and hardworking. I want to earn my way. And all the other humans that amount to anything are paddling very hard upstream. We try here. We try hard. We try, we persevere, we are determined. We use our effort and our action to try to compensate for energy. You don't say that, but you try it. You do it. And we say, nothing that you want is upstream.